Welcome into another edition of the Cubs REKAP Podcast, a presentation of our REKAP YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast with my guy, Gordon Wittenmeyer. I'm David Kaplan. All right, Gordon, let's start with Kyle Hendricks, who has scuffled a bit out of the bullpen. I don't know why he was used in an eighth inning, close ball game.
I like your background there.
There you go.
Ask Kyle to join us.
I've been learning how to do some of these things. But Hendricks is pitching out of the pen. He says all the right things. Hey, man, I haven't earned the right to be in the rotation. I got to be better, and I know I can help this team. So how far do you go with him as a bullpen guy? He doesn't want to be pitching in the fourth inning of a blowout. He wants to be pitching when it matters. How far do you go with him?
You pitch him in the fourth inning of a blowout. That's where you go with him right now. Look what Ben Brown did for you. I mean, right now, you ride with the horses you got in there until they're not doing the job, until somebody opens up an obvious place to try Kyle back in there. There's no reason to fix what ain't broke if that's the one area of your team that ain't broke right now. So, you take a look behind me. My background, you got Kyle in your background. My background is the rest of your damn team. Nothing.
What do you mean the rest of the whole team?
Outside of the rotation. Defense, hitting, bullpen. Hey, look, the night Ben Brown goes 7 no-hit innings and hands off a 1-0 lead. You give a 1-0 lead to the closer in the ninth. Should be good enough. You had to sweat out extra innings. That ain't good.
Okay, I couldn't disagree with you more. Look,
what else
first of all, a year ago at this time, the Chicago Cubs, I think, went 10-18 in the month of May. That's number one. Number two, they scuffled mightily offensively. And from that point on, they were one of the better run-scoring teams in the game. 6th in all of baseball, 3rd in the National League. These guys will play to the level of their baseball card. Not every guy's going to stop hitting. We saw their defense flash big time on a Tuesday night in Milwaukee because Cody Bellinger went up over the wall, took a home run away from Willie Adames. We saw Morrell make a really outstanding defensive play on a chopper in the infield.
How about the chopper that he knocked up into the air for a hit?
Which one?
The grounder right to him. He knocked up in the air for a hit.
Are you talking about Madrigal or Morrell?
I'm talking about Morrell.
Look, he's learning the position, but he's been a lot better. A lot better.
That ain't saying much. He's been better. It ain't saying much. You got deficits all over the place, man. That's what I'm saying. Look, back to the original question, the rotation right now is performing. It's performing all the way up and down. Mm-hmm. Let it ride. Let it ride and look for as much bullpen help as you can get. Maybe those bats come around like you say, although I've been listening to Twitter lately, and I'm not as convinced as I was last week that these are all going to regress to the mean here. They might, or progress, I should say, to the mean. They probably will to some extent. The thing about this team right now is this division will keep them in it. I think we probably both agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree. The division should keep them in it. I don't think the Cardinals are for real. Yeah, they're playing better baseball right now, but I don't think all of a sudden the Cardinals just turn it on and they don't regress at all the rest of the year. I don't believe that.
Yeah, here's what you've got. You've got the Cubs that are pitching their asses off in that rotation. Mm-hmm. The Sonny Gray, since he's come back, you realize in 9 starts since Sonny Gray's been back, he's got a decision in every start. They're 7-2 in his starts. That's been a big part of their resurgence. So, and Lance Lynn's been pitching well. Kyle Gibson's been pitching well. So I'm not saying that'll all necessarily hold up, but their rotation's pitching well. The Reds, for all their problems, their rotation's been solid.
The Reds are in dead last.
I agree that, but you're not hearing my point. My point is that rotations are pitching in this division. Even Pittsburgh has Paul Skeens come in and do what he's done. The rotations are pitching in this division. This division is not good enough. There's enough flaws with every team involved that 3 teams, as many as 3 teams, maybe even 4, could still be in this thing by the end of the season. It's going to be up. When you talk about the Cubs, yes, it'll be up to those position guys getting right. But in larger part, it's going to be up to Jed Hoyer getting that bullpen right. And in my mind, he's on the clock for ultimate accountability this year.
Okay, now I want to switch. I switched my backdrop to Craig Counsell. Craig Counsell got booed on Monday night when they played a video Monday late afternoon.
I switched my backdrop to Kyle Hendricks' future.
Easy now. Let's see if he can work his way through his struggles. Craig Counsell comes out and they play a short tribute video. Classy gesture. Not sure it was necessary. Could have just said, "Hey, Craig, welcome home," or whatever you wanted to say. They played the video and everybody booed. And then when he made a couple pitching changes, all the Brewer fans booed. You know what Craig Counsell probably did that night? As my friend Andy Dolan at Pointless Exercise said, he drove 5 minutes from the stadium so he could sleep in his own bed at home, and he laid himself down on $32 million guaranteed dollars he still owed after the $8 million this year. I mean,
I was going to make the same
joke.
He doesn't count. He doesn't count sheep to go to sleep. He counts his dollars in the bank.
1 million,
just fine.
3 million, 3 million, and by like 7 million, he's asleep.
Exactly.
We should all have the problems that dude's dealing with. So the whole booing Craig Counsell. Do people
go ahead and boo him?
Craig said yesterday to Jesse Rogers, our friend, that his kids were taking pictures of some of the mean signs that were being held up. He goes, and then we all looked at him as a family and laughed. Of course you laughed. You got 40 million guaranteed.
You knew it was coming. The only thing that surprised me was it wasn't worse. And then I remembered, well, shit, at the time, there's more Cubs fans than Brewers fans at these games. So big deal. Yeah. And he should enjoy it. He should look, what did Alfonso Soriano used to say? They don't boo nobodies, babe.
That's it. That is it. I remember somebody saying to me, "Oh, you got criticized on Twitter." I'm like, if somebody's going to take the time out of their busy day and they're going to criticize me, I won.
Yeah, if you're going to read something I wrote and rip me, thanks for reading.
Exactly. That's where Take That started. I remember some guy wrote me, and it was a really nasty tweet, like really over the line. And I grabbed my phone and I went, okay, F this guy. And I started typing something out. And my wife is standing behind me. And she's like, you can't hit send on that. And I said, bullshit. You watch. She's like, hun, we have a house, a mortgage. We have kids in school. If you hit send on that, if I was your boss, I'd at least suspend you if I wouldn't fire you. You cannot use that kind of language. Okay, fine. I'll delete it. And my wife said to me, that guy has how many followers? I said, 4. She said, then why do you let it bother you? This is 7-8 years ago. She said, just write back, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to follow me. Take that. Yeah. Bam. There it goes.
I'll tell you, it's human nature, right? And it took a while to figure that out on Twitter.
Right. Let it roll off your back.
But you have no idea who these people are. For one thing, it's not personal because they don't know you. But you don't, I mean, could be a 12-year-old, could be an 85-year-old, could be somebody with issues. It could be, anything. I mean, it could be somebody, there, but for the grace of God, go I, and just who knows. So let it go. Hey, thanks for reading. Have a good one. Take care.
I appreciate you. Thank you. I'm not going to be stupid enough. And so I never have. Really. Yeah, I'll debate with you. You want to debate a topic with me intelligently? We can agree to disagree. Hell, you and I do it every week on the podcast.
I've said that to people too. Hey, meet me at the bar after the game. Let's have a couple beers and talk about this, but I'm not doing it on Twitter.
Exactly, because all you do is get yourself in trouble. Yep. All right, let's move from Craig Counsell and from Kyle Hendricks to Ben Brown was freaking sensational on Tuesday night. I was there in Milwaukee, and he's at 93 pitches through 7 innings. This is the most he's thrown. He's in his 6th career start. He's 24 years of age, and Craig Counsell makes the right decision and says, you're done. And you wouldn't believe the outrage on Twitter when I tweeted, right decision. Stuff was starting to get a little flat, or however I phrased it. I saw a couple breaking balls sitting up. Bellinger went over the wall and made one play, diving catch by Ian Happ. He was done. Over. And I had all these people coming at me, Gordon, going, you're just like the rest of the sport. It's so soft. That's what's wrong with baseball. Let him go and see if he can get the no-hitter. How far are you going to let him go? 130? He's at 93. Let's assume he goes 25 pitches. We're going to 118 with a guy who's never done this now. What if it's not 25 pitches in 2 innings? What if it's 35 pitches? How far are we going here?
Well, let's say that his stuff isn't flat. Let's say that his stuff is still working. Who cares? The guy's never done it before, and he's a rookie. You don't do that. You don't. I'm as old school as it gets on some of this stuff. There's some stuff I really hate in the game because I'm so old school. But this is stuff we've learned. This is stuff history has taught us. And these kids that are coming up nowadays, and by that I mean in the last 15, 20 years, in many cases, they're not trained for this. They're not developed for this. And you can't force that on somebody who's not prepared for it, number one. And number two, when they're that young, you really take a bigger risk. They've got so much less experience, so much less sort of wear and sort of, I guess, muscle memory and exercise that you risk all kinds of problems long-term with that. And I got 2 words for you on this that should end the entire discussion. Johan Santana. Remember him with the Mets?
Yep.
About 2011, maybe, something like that, 10, 12 years ago. The Mets had never had a no-hitter. He's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. They gave a big contract to. He had a serious injury. He came back from it. He was pitching well. He took a no-hitter into the late innings with a lot of pitches. They let him throw 130 pitches in that game. Mm-hmm. Because of the historical moment, and he was a veteran, and he wanted to, and he's a competitor, and the whole thing. They had an old school manager. He was never the same.
Nope, he was never the same.
Would you do you make that trade-off? I mean, if you're the Mets as a franchise, do you make that trade-off? Okay, that's a different discussion. This kid's career on this night with what you're trying to do with this team, it's not even a debate.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, 1,000%. Now, my takeaway is, and I had been saying I'd use him at the back end of the pen, his curveball, I was reading one of the metric standards this morning on the radio, his curveball is ranked number 1 in all of baseball in fewest, that I guess the way they quantify it is amount of runs that you prevent by using the curveball, or amount of runs that are scored against you. This guy is legit showing you, hey, man, don't paint me as a closer just yet.
I'd say if you didn't already think he earned another start or 2, run him back out there. And at this point, keep running him back out there as long as he's competitive. This is where you're picking up your wins with this starting rotation. When you're picking up wins, you got to ride hot hands to the degree that that it makes sense. But just keep these guys going in the rotation you have, and then hope that some of this other stuff comes around. And somebody charge up Jed Hoyer's cell phone so that he can get some goddamn help in that bullpen.
Yeah, I said he needs to call up the folks at Wintrust and get the Cubs debit card fueled up. And
good luck with that.
Go get yourself some
maxed out on property around the stadium.
got to find a way to get a little extra room, a line of credit so we can get some pitching. I have an idea for a pitcher. We'll get to it in a minute. But guess who is pitching tonight? That would be that guy right there. Shota Imanaga, my Showtime 18.
His interpreter.
My friends at Obvious Shirts. Okay, so Shota is on the bump on Wednesday night in Milwaukee. He's had like 10 days off. He was supposed to pitch Friday at St. Louis. They get rained out, and so they don't want to skip Tyone on his regular rest. I'm trying to remember who went Sunday. Justin Steele went on Monday. Ben Brown went on Tuesday. So he's had all this extra time. I'm fully expecting him to go out and be very, very strong. Does that mean they win? We'll see. You know my mantra. Grab a cup of coffee and find a way to win a damn baseball game. Thank you, Lou Piniella, who gave me that line. But this is a big game for him to go out and see if he can beat the Brewers in Milwaukee.
It is, and I would caution just you don't know how the extra rest is going to play because This guy's been on a hell of a roll. This guy's been on the kind of roll that has everybody in the country saying he's the best free agent of the winter 2 months into the season. And I have a hard time arguing against that notion at this point. We'll see how it plays. There's probably half the people out there in the game think that he's due for second time around the league and second half of the season, he's due for a reality check, no doubt. When somebody's hot and you sit them for extra time, we don't know how that's going to play. I know that in Japan, they typically pitch once a week. And so he's used to a little more rest than he gets in a major league rotation. But 10 days, I mean, that's a lot. Skipping him is a lot. So I've seen around baseball, I think this is a thing now. There's at least three. I can't think of the third one. But right at this same time, 2 months in, other teams are doing this. They're picking guys to do this with, typically rookies, right? And Andrew Abbott of the Reds, a second-year guy who had half a season in last year. Mm-hmm. They pushed him back so that he pitched on his seventh or eighth day, again, for work. What do they call that? Load management, right? And
correct. That's an NBA term, but yes.
Right. So he was on a streak. He'd gone 2 scoreless starts. His scoreless streak was up to 12 innings. He took it 2 innings deep into start Tuesday, and then he gave it up. Then he shit the bed. So he had one of his worst starts after the extra rest. You don't know how it's going to play, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything for going forward if he doesn't have one of his best starts. If he does, then, boy, that's just one more reason to really pile on how much you like this guy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I like his personality. So Jesse was telling me a cool story. Jesse said Shota moves to Chicago. He's not a Cub. He's a free agent.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to Blackhawks games, and he went to a Northwestern football game at Wrigley. And he's like, I love it here. I want to live here. I want to play for this team.
Boy, shrewd negotiating tactic.
Yeah. Jed is out of town for the holiday. They get a hold of somebody who works for Jed and said, hey, before we start talking to these other teams here, because everyone had made some proposals, before we go back to them, you guys want this guy. He'd like Chicago. He'd like to be there. We'll call you back. They call back. They offer, I think, 53 guaranteed. There's some option years. They could get it to in the 80s. And Jesse said, dude, the guy was living in Arlington Heights because there was a Japanese market that he liked in Arlington Heights. And then he would take an Uber or get somebody to take him to Old Orchard Mall in Skokie, which is not indoors. It is an outdoor mall in the winter. And he's walking around getting his coffee at Dunkin' Donuts and having a great time.
I'm surprised I didn't run into him. That's awesome.
Funny? That's the mall I grew up going to. I grew up in Skokie.
I can, you know what that tells. I love the story. I love it, what it says about him. But here's one more thing it says about that thing I brought up earlier with Jed and the accountability, and that he should be on the clock, if not the hot seat this year. He played the market to come to him throughout the offseason. And it did. And this is just one more example of
Hoodie.
of the market coming to him. He didn't extend himself. He didn't have to extend himself much at all to put together the roster that he did with the free agent acquisitions that he made. He waited out Cody Bellinger. Imanaga came to him, and now we're talking about him as maybe the best free agent of the offseason. And he still didn't go out and get more bullpen help than Neris. He still didn't go out and get another starter. And so if this thing falls short, you have to look at the guy in charge on this and wonder just how much he's been doing.
Did you say another starter? He didn't need another starter.
Well, in retrospect, we don't think so, but it sure looked so like it at the time, especially when there were guys, high-level guys that were still out there that could be had for discounts.
Like who? Jordan Montgomery, who's been struggling?
This is 2020 hindsight, Cap. At the time.
Absolutely not 2020 hindsight. Jed has the benefit of knowing what he's got in his system. You and I don't.
Okay, well, we don't know where it's going yet. And I just said, depending on where this goes, if this falls short, if all these guys produce and all these guys are exactly what Jed said, and hey, terrific. Hey, Jed was right. Carter was right. All these guys are right. If it doesn't, it's on them. This is the Chicago freaking Cubs. And they shouldn't be settling for waiting around and finding out and seeing if this plays out or that plays out. You should be doing what big market teams do. Yankees and Dodgers are top among them, of creating redundancy all the way down the roster so that when something goes wrong, you plug with what you've got in-house already.
Yeah, I'm noticing, I guess my reading glasses aren't strong enough to see the 0.0 WAR of Jordan Montgomery or the 3-2 record with a 4.69.
You're intentionally missing my point.
Walk hits per innings pitched.
This is not my point, and you know it. You're intentionally misdirecting and missing my point.
A 141 walks.
Not even you believe that was the case then, and we don't know that it's going to play out all season like that.
They didn't need him. Now, on the bullpen, you're correct. For the second straight year, Jed did not add enough.
Was that not the biggest thing that both of us said in the offseason? As much as we talked about a starter, and most of our talk about a starter was after guys got hurt in spring training.
And by the way, Jordan Montgomery came out this week and told MLB.com, I have a new appreciation for how important spring training is. No shit.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So, but anyway, absolutely. The bullpen was the easiest to identify as a need.
And it should be the easiest to fix. So I'll get to my suggestion in just a moment. But they're in a stretch right now. They've got 2 more with Milwaukee. Then they come home to play the Reds, who have talent, aren't having the best year. Then they get the White Sox. This is a humongous 7-8 days. Humongous.
I'll tell you the telltale series here for me, if you're looking at the Cubs, is that Reds series for this reason. The Reds pitch. The Reds pitch all the way through their bullpen too. They've got bullets all the way through. And if this team can't hit enough, no matter how well it pitches, to win that series, that's gonna be a red flare for the needs of the team, because anybody can walk in and show up and beat the White Sox. But the Reds are just good enough as a team that pitches that if you can't beat them when you pitch because you can't score enough runs or you can't make enough plays behind them or you can't hold a late lead, then you've got problems.
Yeah, the White Sox, they're like epically bad. Epic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like it's insane how bad the White Sox are. I did not see that coming to the degree that the White Sox are at. But the Reds, this is a huge amount of time for the Cincinnati Reds as well. They've got to figure out how they're going to get this thing fixed.
Well, they just got a key guy back from the injured list for the second time, TJ Friedel, their best defender in the outfield, which is saying something because they got a couple of good ones out there, and their leadoff guy, left-handed guy. He led the league in bunt hits last year. That's how important he is. He's a speed guy. He's an igniter at the top of their lineup. They haven't had him all year except for 5+ games. So having him back, it makes this an important stretch for them. They've got all their starting pitchers back. Nick Lodolo just came back. He might be the best of their bunch. I think he pitches against the Cubs this weekend. And so this is, you're right. This is a big stretch for the Reds, but they're still in a place, they're still kind of compromised with some of their injuries, that if the Cubs perform at the plate and in the field, they need to win that home series. Never mind the fact that it's a division series, and never mind the fact that you don't want the Reds to get on a roll with some of their young talent.
Okay, here's my idea of who the Cubs should trade for. I would call Chris Getz. He needs to get some absolute studs in his minor league. I've got a minor league system. I could trade you some players. I want Michael Kopech.
I don't have any problem with that pursuit, and I think you should be willing to pay the early market high price to do that. He's got another year of club control, I believe. He's also a guy who I think you should have a chance to maybe even extend beyond that at a price it's not going to break the bank. And so I like that idea. Change of scenery. I mean, it ain't much of a change of scenery, but it is the north side with a hell of a lot more fans and a hell of a lot more energy and a lot more at stake. So it could be a radical change of scenery for a guy that needs one, probably. And everybody knows the talent this guy has. That would be great. But I'll say this too, Cap. If you go get that done, that's a start. I think you need at least another guy too.
I completely agree. So he is making $3 million this year. That's nothing.
That's through arbitration, right?
He's got one more year that he avoided arbitration, settled at $3 million. He's just turned 28 recently. Next year, he has got his third year of ARB, and then he's a free agent in 2026. Why would you not go get a guy who throws hard like this and see what you could do to harness him? I was told by somebody who knows him, that if he's not with the White Sox and he gets a fresh start, Cubs, Dodgers, Yankees, Boston, those are his four because he wants to pitch in an iconic park that's packed.
With maybe something on the line.
Yes.
I love it. That's the kind of guy you should go get. And he should be available. That's the kind of guy who should be available at this point in the market. But God damn it, don't do what you did in the offseason. Wait for it to come to you, because that ain't going to happen during the trade season. Go get it. That's what they have to do.
Yes. You should be able to give them one or two solid prospects. I mean, he's not going to cost you what it would cost to go get Mason Miller out of Oakland. Go get it done.
Go get that one done. Yeah.
Yes.
And then
where
stay
you're
on
at
with everybody else who's selling too. Go see if the Marlins got somebody they can throw your way. Yeah. Should have got more done in the offseason. But
I completely agree. But they
do
have
it in the ass right now.
They have money to spend if they're in the race in July. So I would jump the market right now. Chris, look at my system within reason. Tell me what you got to have.
Absolutely. And the thing too is some of this stuff that we see that they're not doing, like the hitting. Now you pointed out, well, they'll perform like the backs of their baseball cards. Yeah, they might. I mean, that's what 2 months into a 6-month season, that is the kind of stuff you hang on to with veteran players who aren't 40 years old. No question. Offense is down a little bit this year. That could change by this summer. That could change if they put a new ball in play at the All-Star break, because we know they manipulate the things like that.
They do.
But if you can do other things that can give you an edge in the meantime, to get you on a little bit of a roll, make June a better month than May was, then some of these other things can sometimes feed off of that. And now there's a little more confidence in the whole room. There's a little more, there's an uptick in performance across all the position areas. Maybe your run prevention, which should have already been there. The defense should never slump. maybe that starts to come back around at some of those Gold Glove levels again. And then all of a sudden, maybe that carries over into some at-bats. And the next thing you know, this guy's hot. I mean, Ian Happ had a few good games there here just recently, and you were about ready to write him off last week. So things can change quickly. And sometimes when you make a change over here that helps the whole club, it can have this domino effect that lifts other areas.
Gordon, have a great rest of your day. Let's see if Shota Imanaga can weave a web of mastery at the Milwaukee Brewers, baby.
Good luck with that, Cap.
Let's go.
Shota time.
There you go. Shota time right there, baby. Anyway, check out our website, thecapman.com. Got the store up with some really cool new merch around the Bears, and we'll have some new Cubs stuff coming, so it should be cool. So check it out, the Capman.
Hey, actually got a recent column posted too.
Yes, we do. We have Gordon's column. That's right. Writes him from a ballpark somewhere around baseball. For Gordon, I'm Cap. Have a great rest of your day. We appreciate you greatly. Enjoy. Take that.